remember the whole, would you be in a thing in the woods with a bear?
Oh,
or with
the
a
bear
man?
thing,
And I'm just
which is crazy to me.
I wouldn't want to be with either. I don't want to be in a bear. A bear?
I don't know why you thought the bear was just gonna let you slide.
See, the problem is cartoons have screwed things up. You're thinking
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, no.
I mean,
Smoking a beer,
even him was kind of creepy because he didn't have no pants on.
That's what you should be worried about.
You know what I'm saying? He walking around the woods with just a shirt on.
Yeah, no shirt on, no pants, and you just craving honey? Like, what's up, bro?
All bears ain't built the same. All men aren't built the same. That's all I'm saying.
We're being ridiculous. But I just think that, it's one of those things where, like, because we have we're challenging the norms, which is fine. I have no problem challenging the norms. But at the same time, if you remove the norms, what is going to replace it? And that goes back to your question you asked. If you're saying what Anthony Mackie said is wrong, then how should he raise his sons? Welcome to this episode of Juxtaposed. Today we take on what appeared to be controversial. I don't really know why, but Anthony Mackie's episode on the pivot, which we're going to dive into.
The Pivot, that's what it's called?
Yeah, the show's called Pivot.
Oh, okay.
Which, man, salute them brothers, man, because they're making quality content, and I love to see it. But guess what was I'm K Styles. I forgot. I jumped in because it seems like it was just one of those episodes where the content is so interesting that people feel so strongly that it's concerning.
Yeah.
So I'm all over the place. So I'm here with MVP. Whoop, whoop. And we're gonna jump into this. What's your thoughts on your initial thoughts, and then we're gonna play the clip.
Okay. So my initial thoughts was I was happy to hear him express certain things that I've been thinking about. Yeah. Because I'm always thinking about how I was raised when I was younger, and if I was to have kids, single and ready to mingle.
Okay. Right.
Out there. But anyway, if I was to have kids, how would I go about raising them? Yeah. So the fact that there's controversy, because based on what I heard him saying, we're gonna play it. Yeah. But based on what I heard him say, he said some good things of like how I would want to raise my kids.
Yeah, it's how we were raised, and granted, in the way that we were all raised, there may have been things that were outdated or not, but the stuff that he mentioned, I don't think that was a thing. So my thoughts too is just like I have nothing wrong with this, like the way he approached it. Yeah. I don't see anything wrong. And honestly, if someone can point out, let us know in the comments. You want to flame us in the comments? Let us do that. Let's have the conversation, because I think once we start to have the conversation, at least it moves us in the direction we need to be. So, we jump right into the clip.
Let's do it.
That's where we came from. I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. My boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like your kids. And no, I don't give a I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tell the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. Mm-hmm. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open a door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. Mm. You make sure these doors are locked every night, this alarm is on, you text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, motherfucker climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, motherfucker jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there, and so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different. You feel it when you go to Europe.
And we could pause there.
Yeah.
That goes a little bit further into the thing, but I just listen to it again. I don't see the problem. Now I understand how people would. There's an idea with masculinity being toxic is a thing that I'm assuming people are getting upset about, and the fact that he's talking about it in that way, but. Outside of the fact that gender roles have changed so dramatically, or the perception of gender roles have changed so dramatically, this is how we operated for many years and led us to be in a safer place. Now, there's a lot of things that come with that. You can go and say that, as a result of that, men are this, women are that idea. You ended up in a space where some things went awry, right? Like things were wrong, and I'm all for accepting that and correcting the areas where that's wrong. But to listen to what he said, if that's how he's raising his kids, to me, that is not something worth people being upset about. Now, he could have raised the kids to be vile assholes, right?
Yeah.
That's a different thing. And then it would be a whole conversation. It's like, I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see what the problem is, personally.
So I was, keeping my ear to the streets, and basically some of the people were saying that, like you said, the gender role thing, they're saying, hey, what he's saying isn't about being a man, it's just about being a good person. Like him mentioning, hey, he teaches them to make sure the doors are locked and da-da-da-da. They're saying that, a woman can do that, right? Or, hey, him opening the doors and saying, yes, ma'am, and yes, sir. They're saying, hey, a woman can do that. And my issue is he ain't talking about women right now.
Does he have daughters?
I don't know if he has daughters.
I don't think he has daughters. So if he's raising all his sons...
He's talking about raising his sons.
And it's like we've gotten to the point where people want to be so inclusive that they'll pinpoint something and like, oh, he's not talking about, women. I'm like, he said, I raised my sons
to be men.
Now, I mean,
whatever and he says it in whatever that means.
I'm gonna check to see. Maybe he has daughters. If he has daughters,
yeah, check to see if he has daughters.
But
so my thing is, hey, he's saying how he's raising his kids, his sons, to be men, and what he views as a man. And it's so interesting when he said the whole yes sir and yes ma'am thing, because I vividly remember when my stepdad started making me say that, like. It was literally you know how they call it, a learning curve? Because I had gotten to a certain age, and he's like, yeah, going forward, yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. And I was like, okay. And now that's just transcended into all the way to my big age now. So I'm like, it was my stepfather who taught me that. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So maybe that's his version of being a man.
He has 4 sons.
He has 4 whole sons. No daughters at all.
No daughters.
So why would he be talking about how to raise a daughter?
That's one thing. But also, we have forgotten, and this is the thing that's very upsetting, is that we've gotten to the point where you have to everything you say, you need to be inclusive of every potential person that may hear it and respond to it. And I'm like, I can't operate like that, because I can't tell you, as someone who's not raised any kids, I can't tell you how I'm going to raise my daughters versus my... I can make assumptions, but this man has done it 4 times. He's on the 4th one.
Four times,
and that's how he wants to raise his kids. And the fact that people have such strong opinions about it is crazy to me.
Yeah, they're up in arms about it, and it's. I understand that they want to be inclusive with things, right? But then you go to pivot and you have your conversations. This is about him and his kids and the thing is, the part that I guess upsets me is that outside of if it's gender inclusive, these are good freaking manners. Hey, open the door for people. Hey, say yes sir, yes, be respectful. Hey, make sure the house is locked. Make sure it's and then some people we're going to go to the part where they're like, hey, should the 15-year-old be in charge? We're going to get to that. But I'm like, people just miss the whole, he's actually saying, hey, do these things that I think makes you a better person.
Yeah.
And all you got out of that is, well, women can do that too.
Well,
yes, they can, but he's not talking to women. He's talking to his sons.
I think that one of the things that people look for in these arguments is just holes in the story. And if you find something that doesn't address it, they're like, oh, I got something. And then jump on it. Because it's just interesting because he's in a group with all men. Talking about raising his kids. And I think the question was, I forgot the exact question, but it was something directly of like, how do you keep your kids humble? And it was about his own humility, because he's like, he was in the show, they were watching some movie and the trailer for Captain America came on and his kids were so busy like eating popcorn and no one noticed that he was actually on the screen.
Okay.
And so he was like just talking about the fact that like, they don't really care what I do for a job. But at the same time, I also do a job. It's my job to keep them humble and not to do like, we've seen celebrity kids and you're like, sometimes you're like, my man.
They outrageous.
Yo, what are you doing? And so I think from his point, he's like, I'm very grounded and keep my kids grounded. And I respect that because it's your kids. And the thing about it, if he was raising them to be assholes or be violent, terrible people or something like that, that's the thing. Now I could understand some people would say, okay, well, don't make daddy mad or my father, dad, or whatever he said, mad. And I'm like, but your kids are gonna piss you off.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, I think there needs to be a threat level there, right? As a parent. Because usually what I've seen is when the parent doesn't provide a certain, like, even like auntie who gives you that look, and the kids we know.
It's well known.
We know the look.
You don't even have to explain it.
There's a reason why that look works, because sometimes you do need to be able to check your kids or whoever the young, like it could be your niece or nephew or whatever, like, they need to be able to know when to play and when not to play.
Just a little bit of straightening, bro.
Just a little bit of straightening. So when he says, hey, don't make daddy mad, I think he's saying it from a sense of like, they know when to play and when not to play.
But then one of the things is, where have we gotten in this world where you're not allowed to have those boundaries, right? Because that's essentially what it is. You're just like, hey, you've corrected this. And if you think about it from a very primal thing, if you watch a pack of dogs and there's a leader in that pack and one of the other dogs does something incorrect, they'll correct them. Yeah. Right?
Just sidebar, I've watched some of these it's like this guy who trains bad dogs. And the way he trains bad dogs is by using good dogs that have social behavior. Like, they know how to be social. And he's like, hey, and you can literally see, like, say if it's like one of them is like a Doberman or whatever, and you can literally see the Doberman correct the dog's energy. And by the end of the show, the dog comes out on the better end of that. So I just thought that was interesting.
But, it's very interesting. But I mean, the thing is, at the core, that is what we are as creatures, right? It's the reason why most people. It's the reason why you code switch when you go into work, right? Like, I don't talk the same way I would talk, and people may look at that like a thing. I'm like, yeah, but it's imperative for me to do that from a sense of survival. And so to be around people, and it's like, they say you are the sum of your 5 closest friends or whatever that statement is, right? Because when you're around people, if you're around people who ain't about shit, you kind of end up, because they interject and they introduce you to ain't shit things, right? You know, like, oh, let's just go out and party all the time, or let's do this thing, like, let's blow money on drugs. Like,
hey, even when I was younger, hey, let's skip class and go, or skip school. Like, bro, it's fun in that moment, but thinking about it now in hindsight, I'm like, hanging out with these people put me in a position where I could have failed, right?
But there's a space where it's clear that when you're in these groups that you have to be aware of your surroundings, aware of who you're with and what you're trying to achieve, because a lot of times that's why people change, that's why people pull away, that's why people do other things. So all of that's it's not surprising that people are upset, it's more like concerning because like, what is the other option? Like, what do you want to do? Just not talk about it? Is that? Well,
and this is because I know we're gonna go deeper into this, but I think it's a level of, I don't think people like when men talk about being men in manhood, because I was watching something, some podcast, I can't remember what it was, which one it was, but they were like, hey, well, almost like almost defensively, like, what does manhood mean to you? And I'm like, why are you getting even women are like, well, do you think that's being a man? I'm like, why when at least when I hear, I don't hear people when you say what it means to be a woman, people get really like defensive and talk about it like that. Women usually tell you what it is, and that's what it is. But when a man tells you, hey, this is what I see manhood is, and I think they instantly go into, oh, he about to say something toxic.
Well, that's the thing. We've gotten to the point where it's polarizing to identify with anything that's manly because automatically it's toxic. It's like
or it like the whole equality, inclusion and stuff like that. I think when you do that, it makes other people feel like you automatically are taking them out of the equation, right?
But that is one of the things that bothers me with humans in general. It's like, I remember we had talked about this a while ago, and it was a study on, it was talking about the fact that if everyone in the class, the teacher said everyone in the class agrees to it, that he'll pass the whole class, right? And he said every year he did that experiment, and most cases, no, they never got to everybody to agree because there's always someone who felt like someone else shouldn't get a chance because of them.
Yeah,
and that goes going back to the equality part, and I'm trying to land that because it's bringing it all together. The thing that bothers me is just me being me or talking about me or shouldn't automatically mean that I am speaking less or thinking less of another person.
Yes, correct.
Right? It just means that like I am trying to be the best me, and it's funny because now, and it's even with this and the outcry from this makes you like question like what is your expected response to things here? Like I like the way he approached it because he's just like, I just live in my bubble. I don't care what I'm doing. And
he said what he said.
But I think that it's like we're so used to having an opinion that people have an opinion for just anything. But also it's like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? In any situation, like what can I do to not be considered a toxic male? What can I do to not be considered a bad person for having values? I just don't. What do you do in these days, bro?
I think he considered that too, because even the way he approached it, he seemed like the whole part of, hey, they're killing
masculinity
in the community. Mm-hmm. I think that's where that energy came from, where he's like, me probably even saying this is going to become a problem, but I think it's necessary that I'm glad he addressed it because now we're talking about it.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And I'm like, hey, me talking about, being a man and what I think is a man shouldn't make other people feel, excluded or give them, especially when he's talking in a positive way too, right? He's not talking about, hey, like, I want my sons to be smacking everybody every time they see somebody who look at them wrong. He's not, when they step on your shoes, you got to check them. Like he's not saying things like this. He's saying respectable things. So it's just crazy to me that people are actually getting upset about it.
Yeah. Well, it's a couple of things that while we're planning this that came up. Do you feel like this is, he spoke about his 15-year-old son and how he's like, when I leave the house, he's the man of the house, right? Do you feel like that is like discipline, or is it putting too much pressure on the son? Which I think is a wild question, but we're gonna ask it anyway.
Just real quick, y'all. I give stories all the time, right? So I just watched a movie called Greenland with Gerard Butler.
Okay,
great movie. And the lady who's I think she's Wonder Woman.
Gal Gadot.
Beautiful.
Interesting.
Right. So, and just the premise of it, the world was coming to the end. Right. And so they have to the government selected certain people to go to these shelters because the world is about to end. And they have to get on these planes and go to the shelter, right? But they get separated. So it's the mother and the son is like maybe 8, 9, young. And then, Gerard, he's the father, and he's off somewhere, right? So the whole movie goes on, a whole bunch of crazy stuff happens, and they finally get back together. And he looks at his son and say, hey, did you take care of your mother? And the son's like, yeah. Now, who do you really think was taking care of who?
It was definitely the mother.
It was definitely the mother.
Well,
but as a man, father to son, he's like, hey, did you take care of your mother? And it was so slight, and it made me think of this Anthony Mackie thing. I'm like, why would he say that to a little boy? Is he putting too much pressure on? And mind you, the world was coming to an end. A lot of stuff, like things are blowing up. People are dying. And he said that to him without even, because it's a level of, hey, take care of your mother.
Well, what's interesting about that, I mean, listen to you talk about it too, is that I guess where the big issue is the basing it on the predefined gender roles, which is that
because she's a woman, and the boys
the man is supposed to be the protector, and the woman's supposed to be the nurturer. And the thing that was always interesting about it is my understanding of those gender roles was that it was never like this is what it is and nothing else, right?
Right.
It was literally just if you go into any situation, and let's use, oh my God, it's gonna probably get issues too.
Everything we said so far is issues.
Yeah, let's use sports as an example, right? I'm use basketball.
No, right? You better not use basketball.
And if you go in and you're 5 people on a team, right?
Okay.
If everybody tried to be the shooting guard, you would lose every game.
Okay.
By having and you see the game change now where you see a lot of the bigger players, the centers being able to shoot, which opens things up. But by having your at least predefined roles, right? Because you're either your center, point guard, small forward, whatever. You know the roles.
You know what to do, yeah.
You have a baseline to say this is where we start from. And I understand that people right now, based on all the stuff that's going on, and especially looking at the I'm trying not to do the politics thing, but looking at what is happening, where they're trying to remove a lot of the things that they're labeling as woke ideology, I can understand why people are super sensitive about this in general. But I do think that we need to be reasonable with some of this stuff, because by having this, what he said in this and what Gerard Butler said is a thing that we're trying to raise men to be men.
And let me ask you a question. If this is such a problem, right? What's the opposite of that? In my mind, in the same breath, the same people who say this stuff will shit on a guy who's living in his mama's basement. He don't got no job. He ain't doing nothing but probably playing video games. That's probably a guy who was not, even, I don't know if the dad's in life, but his dad probably didn't say, hey, you got to get off and take care of the family. He might have never said, hey, make sure the doors is locked. make sure to do these things.
But the thing about that, and sorry to jump in, the thing that bothers me is like, there's this part of being aware of your surroundings. And we talked about this with Boundaries and Friends. Being aware of your surroundings, ensuring that things are like, you get trained to do certain things based on your experience. And as a elder, right? Because in any situation, it doesn't need to be.
Hold on, you're an elder, right?
Elder,
now?
As an elder, and as
hold on, we're not at that age, are we? Are we elders?
I mean, yeah, because there's a lot of generations underneath us at this point, right?
I'm a young man.
In heart,
elder.
In heart, I'm just okay.
Elder, I feel like it's like 30 years old. Maybe I got flowing white locks.
You're going to an old stereotype.
Okay. Am I part of the problem?
But at the end of the day, we are looking at things based on the roles that were defined, and so you want to be at least to have a framework to start from.
Yeah, right.
And right now, what I feel like we have is that we have a lot of people being very loud about stuff, and you remove that space for people to work in, and so what you end up in is just a very confusing space. It's very confusing, and that I mean, to sidebar, this is supposed to be later, but this goes perfectly into the whole like straight men are a red flag thing that Dochi said. And I understand just even bringing it up means that we're probably toxic males because we're upset about it, whatever. But I think that it's very odd to be in a space where I am essentially being singled out as a red flag just for existing. And it's weird. It's weird to have that conversation come from another black person. That's the only thing I'm gonna say on that, because to me, I know race is a very touchy subject, but this is Juxtaposed where we're supposed to have these conversations. Yeah. It's weird to have a space where you're singling out somebody just because of this thing. And I understand all of the potential things, like how men may have treated you, some of the things that a lot of things men have done. I remember the whole, would you be in a thing in the woods with a bear?
Oh,
or with
the
a
bear
man?
thing,
I'm just like,
which is crazy to me.
I wouldn't want to be with either. I don't want to be in a bear. A bear?
I don't know why you thought the bear was just gonna let you slide.
See, the problem is cartoons have screwed things up. You're thinking Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, no.
I mean, even
beer,
him was kind of creepy because he didn't have no pants on.
That's what you should be worried about.
You know what I'm saying? He walking around the woods with just a shirt on.
Yeah, no shirt on, no pants, and you just craving honey? Like, what's up, bro?
All bears ain't built the same. All men aren't built the same. That's what I'm saying.
We're being ridiculous. But I just think that, it's one of those things where, like, because we have we're challenging the norms, which is fine. I have no problem challenging the norms. But at the same time, if you remove the norms, what is going to replace it? And that goes back to your question you asked. If you're saying what Anthony Mackie said is wrong, then how should he raise his sons? We're not getting anybody saying, okay, this is how you should do it. This is how you should do it. It's like, oh my God, you said it. And I'm like,
well, that's for everybody. Everybody should just do that like that. And I'm like, so if everybody's supposed to just do it, then nobody needs to say anything, right? Because everybody just knows how that's supposed to happen.
And that's why we're watching the Gen Z people not know how to interact. The people who just came out of college and went into the workforce, and we're seeing what that looks like.
There's a study on it.
The things that you learned as a first year and a second year employee, that, you go to meetings late, you realize that's a big deal. Like how to interact with people. A lot of that stuff is missing because we had COVID to thank for that. And so people were remote. So certain things you just don't know how to do. I know my wife was telling me like a couple times, people came to like work in crop tops with their belly out, and it's like, yo, you don't need to be told that's not acceptable. Like that's something you learn from the pack. You're like, that's for the club.
Well, did you hear about the lady who got fired? She's a stewardess, I believe that's what they call it. On the plane, because she was twerking, and she was like, and she was crying too. She's like, yo, I didn't think that it would be. I'm like, everybody's trying to uplift the twerking, right? Like, and do what you do, but if you're supposed to be representing this airline and she's on the plane
in your uniform
and you're twerking, it's hard for me to not get, like, it's hard for me to understand how you don't get.
Did she have a name tag on too? I think she had a name tag on.
Right there. She had the whole outfit on. Then I see you.
We've lost. I understand.
Somebody in the pack should have told her.
But we've lost.
That's probably not a good look.
We've lost the things that kept, like, the guardrails are removed because people complain about the guardrails, right? And as a result of that, now it's the Wild West,
dude. So I don't know. We in DC area. I don't know if they might come find us. I don't know.
Doxed. We just got doxed.
Right. We're in DC area. And the kids that are like 15, around 15, 16, they are going crazy. They're stealing cars. They're just like doing brazen things in public, like during the daytime. And I'm like, there has to be some type of connection with, hey, you're telling men not to be men. Or, maybe there's not a male in the family. Or whatever it is, something's going on where when I was growing up, I was taught not to be in these things. And these are not this different thing with gang life. These are not kids that's in gang life. Yeah. They just a group of friends that's into doing bad stuff.
Well, you know, the one thing I would say and my rebuttal to that is I feel like as a result of the internet and being more connected and the fact that you could see, you have a lot of readily available access to just all the shenanigans. It's I feel like we're just in a space where that's a thing. And then, you know, you're connecting with people all over the world and not, you know, the people right in front of you. So like for me,
so you think it's more of a exposure to all this stuff on the internet than having, and mind you, a woman can do this too, right?
Yeah, having an active parent,
having an active parent that's actually, you know, like putting in that work, or do you think it's more the internet stuff?
I think it's a combination of both. I think we have gotten to the place where the devices are allowed to parent the kids a lot more. You know, where, you know, they're untethered time with the devices is a thing. But on top of that too, I don't think that there's a space where we have been in a easy life situation for a long time, especially as Americans, where, you know, I mean, we're feeling it now because of inflation and all that stuff, but even that is not that bad. Like, you know, think of back, you know, in our parents' time when, you know, there were world wars and shit like that. And we've gotten very soft as a thing. And as a result of that,
there's been rumblings of the softness.
Yeah. I mean,
hey, we got DoorDash that brings you food. You don't even have to go out and survive, right? You can just be in the house and get food.
So yeah, we've gotten to the place where it's just really soft, and it goes back to like why the things that like are said about like raising your kids a certain way and raising to be men is gonna feel jarring, because you're like, well, that's so old school, which is one of the things that we had here. It's an old way of moving, and I'm like, yeah, but just because it's older doesn't make it bad.
Yeah, right. There's certain things that work for a reason, right? And which is crazy to me, because I just have to say it. It's amazing to me that the Dolce thing happened, right? And the men got like, oh, what's going on with this? And everybody's like, yo, chill out. She didn't mean it like that, or you're not understanding it. And then when Mackie says what he says, everybody's like, oh, cancel him. And I'm like, so this person said straight men are a red flag. And if you don't know what a red flag is, then maybe that's why you don't understand why guys have concern. Yeah. But then this other guy, Mackie, says, hey, be respectful, check on things, be right, be humble. I'm not buying you a bunch of Jordans. Don't act silly out here. You got to represent the family. Oh, what's he talking about? That's outdated. I'm like, well, I mean, it makes sense for me.
They both come from the same ideology, which is that, you know, what happened in the past is connected to a certain level of toxicity. And, you know, that's why, if you know, like what fed the Me Too movement and a lot of stuff like that, which is like, there were a lot of bad things that were happening and people should have been held accountable.
Yes, facts.
Like without a question. And the thing about it that I think that we struggle here, because we've become a this or that society, which is either you support this or you support that. And if you do anything on the opposite side, you're automatically that.
And I know this is going to make people just feel some type of way, but they feel like, hey, you're either Kendrick or you're Drake.
Yeah.
You can't like both of them. You can't like, you know, there's literal people out here who are fans of hip hop. Like, they're actual fans of the whole thing. And you're telling them that they can't like Kendrick and Drake? That's just a small sample of how crazy it's getting, where you say this is either this or that.
Listen,
come on.
I don't know how
make sense.
How do we fix that? Because there was a understandable gray area where it's like people always had these hard, and this I guess where we're going to the opposite side of the gender role things, where people have these hard lines as well. And I granted that maybe this has just been the reiteration of this because it's always been that. But like in the past, when people are like, "Oh, you're not a man if you don't watch sports," and I'm like,
that was a big thing.
I don't.
That was a big thing.
I played sports, a lot of sports. I don't want to watch sports.
You're not a man if you don't know how to work on a car. There's a list of these things.
But I said all of these things that have been said. Now the opposite of that is like, if you're a straight man, you're a red flag. Like,
and I don't know where we wanted to save this for later, but I'm trying to understand what that means. Because if I'm using the definition of a red flag, it's something that you don't want. That's something that you don't want to be around. Like, you want to avoid red flags, I thought.
I think at the core, too, this, like, I don't know her intent or why she mentioned this. I think that, it just goes into this mentality that, everything that matches, like, what is traditional gender roles is toxic. So, and we've had conversations about that. It's like the, who takes out the garbage and all that extra shit that now has become such a common conversation. Like, oh, who's doing 50-50? It's like all of these things have been we're so used to that someone's always looking for the next thing to say that's way more egregious than the other person. Because once you say that, you guaranteed, 2.5 seconds or maybe a second of attention. So,
my thought is, I wonder if there's a level of, hey, do you feel like doing this? If you want to do it, right? Just to go back to the trash thing, right? Anybody can take out the trash.
Yeah.
But for me, I want to take out the trash, right? Yeah. Especially because, like, usually the trash is taken out at a later time in the day. For me, right? But if my lady wants to take out the trash, she can take out the fucking... Like, it's not like I'm saying you can't do this.
But goes back to this or that thing. Because it's like either you take out the trash or she takes out the trash. And I'm like, but...
We can...
Why does it need to...
What do you want to do?
Who came home last?
Right. Stuff like those are the real questions.
We don't operate... And if you think about it, in society anymore, we don't operate in those, like, realistic standpoints right now. It's like nothing is like... If you do this, then this means you're this type of person, right? Like if you, like the funny one is if you drive a Tesla, now you're, Elon Musk sympathizer.
I'm not speaking on that.
And it's like people
scratching off the emblem, like trying to cover it up, like it's like going crazy out there.
I could understand it because you're in a space where like you don't really want to be too close to that guy right now. But at the same time. Did they go out and buy the car today or after? Because the people who own them majority of them are not Republicans or Elon.
They just like
the car. But
that is kind of politics now, and I don't know how the level is because that's kind of where it is. Where it's like, I think we're more bought into the person now than the brand itself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, like. And I don't know what level you're supposed to meet that with because it's, like you say, we're way more connected now. Yeah. But back in the day, for me, I didn't really know about the people who, like, made these things. I just liked the brand or whatever. So, I mean, I think that is a part of the woke situation. Where I just don't, like, now.
I hate the way you use woke as a, like.
Hey, now I know who's running this. I know who owns this. And it doesn't take a lot of effort to find out who it is.
He's too available.
Yeah.
I mean, but I guess to bring it back.
Yeah. What you thinking?
Do you feel like the respectability thing also is a toxic? I mean, I know your answer, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Mm-hmm. Do you still feel like that's a toxic thing as well, like the yes ma'am, no ma'am thing?
Because I told y'all about how I felt when I was younger. I thought it was extra, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not in the military. Right? But it does provide a level of, I hate to use the word respect because we're talking about respect.
Yeah.
But discipline, there we go.
Yeah.
Words matter.
It does.
And I'm like, it provides a matter of discipline and you can build on, like if you start with yes ma'am and yes sir, it already is going to put you on a path to build respect with people, right? It's already going to... I'll say one thing. This is a sidebar. But we went out last night. Mm-hmm. And the crowd that we were in was around our age. And I'm not going... Maybe it's just I haven't been out in a while, but the respect level was so clean. Oh, bump. Oh, excuse me. Hey. Like there was no mean mugging. There was no. I stepped on a guy's shoe.
In all fairness,
I stepped on a guy's shoe accidentally. He said my bad. I said, you said my bad. I stepped on your shoe. Yo, what?
We have to be very cognizant of our surroundings again, because this was an R&B event, which means that people's, maybe if you went to like, a hardcore hip, but even then I feel like
I was thinking like, when I was getting ready, I was like, is this a maybe Migos or maybe The Baby or I don't know a YMB Youngboy.
Oh,
there we go. That crowd probably get kind of crazy.
Truthfully, I'm not out as much as I used to be, but I'm wondering if it's just different because we're also in a space where people now are been so segmented because of COVID and everything that just being around people is not a thing. Like before, I felt like you had to prove who you were, and I'm like, I went to that space and it was just like, hey, I was enjoying myself, and people were around, they were enjoying themselves. It was just a good time. There was no fights, there's no drama. Like people are just chilling. So I'm wondering if times are just different where people are not going that hard on being the macho. I don't know. And maybe that goes back into this. Like, is that? No, I think that shit still exists. I don't know why I'm lying.
You think what still exists?
Yeah, it exists. The I need to be the hardest man on the street type thing. But
I think it does. But I mean, it, like you said, it is environment, right?
Yeah.
But to go back to the respect level thing, if it's a problem, I think it's a problem if you're doing it in an abusive way, right? Because you can like express to your child, hey, these things are important. But my issue growing up was if I didn't do these things, I would get beat down, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, yo, instill it, but don't be violent and abusive with trying to instill these values. That's the only thing I would caution if you're trying to get your kids to be more respectable as they grow up.
Yeah, but I think that truthfully, I don't know. I was definitely in a place where I would, it was part of the correction where you get, beatings or whatever.
Put the hands on your hands and feet.
I remember those moments, and they definitely helped deter some of the bad behavior. So it's like, I don't know if I would necessarily do that for my kids, but there has to be some level. Honestly, the things that bothered me the most was the disappointment. When you mess up and they're like super disappointed in you, felt worse than getting beaten. But you have to structure that. That's not something you can do by accident. That doesn't just happen. Like, you have to have them trust you, the kids trust you enough. And I don't have kids. So, my understanding from my being an uncle. But you have to create those value points for kids to understand, hey, this is an important thing. By doing this or not doing this, you are causing this thing to happen. So we need to value that. And by having this amorphous, you can't be a man, you can't do this, all these things. How are you going to even create the kid? That's why the kids are probably wild now.
So do you think, in conclusion, he's being harsh by saying, hey, you're the man of the house?
I don't think so at all, because what it does is it's from an early age, it gets you trained to start looking at things from a responsible standpoint.
I love the way you put that.
And I think about it, like, if you think going into, like, I've never been a big, like, mentor person, but I think of some of the people I've had who've helped my growth. And one of the things that I realized that he did a lot of times was they set standards for me to reach. I had one boss one time, he's like, yeah, I want this to be 100% right. Was it going to be 100% right? No, right? But it set up for me an understanding. Yeah, it set up a clear, defined expectation. I want you to hit the top, right? And that's something that actually still, a part of how I operate, how I manage, how I go. Because I'm like, I want us to do well. And you doing well means I'm doing well. And I expect that you're going to deliver on what you say you're going to deliver on.
Now, some people might take, even the way you're saying it, might take it as you're being aggressive.
Okay.
Which is crazy to me, right? Like, it's like, yo, me telling you the expectation that's going to benefit like whatever we're aiming for is a problem now. And I'm like, so then what are you supposed to do?
But it's the thing that that upsets me the most is because all we have done is eroded the rules and said we shouldn't do this as a thing. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, I just want to let you know, these rules have been battle tested. They've been around for a long time. If we're going to remove them, then what are we going to put in their place? It's the same thing with I'm so politically, connected now. Everything is that. But watching them remove like the DEI stuff and remove that stuff. And you're like, okay, cool. Well, are you going to replace it with something? No.
You're just gonna
remove it, and then everything is gonna be good.
Yeah,
and to me that's the problem. It's
likely.
Like we have eroded a lot of the, I said guardrails because guardrails is just an easier way to say it. But you remove the things that, for all intents and purposes, allowed us to be decent, moral people. What do you think is gonna happen?
Yeah, like and luckily, someone like Anthony Mackie is going to keep doing it. Right? But somebody else might watch that and be like, oh, so maybe I shouldn't tell my kid to make sure he locks the door. Like it's so funny. Me even watching this, I was like, am I doing my part? Hold on. Because there's more than one guy in my house. So I'm like, hold on, let me check the door, check the windows and stuff like that. So maybe I need to get a little bit more more serious about my security.
But it's just like, in this day and age, even just by saying that, you could be considered toxic. And I'm just like, at some point, what's going to happen is we're going to flip to the other side. Like there's when things are pushed too far one direction and it course corrects, it goes the complete opposite. Now, I don't want to go back to draconian times when, it was just like, king and queens and everybody else.
Hunter and
I didn't want to go that far back. That's too far. But but at the same time, it's like it's gotta balance out a little bit, and that's unfortunately was what I think the Trump administration harnessed, because they're like, oh, we're tired of a lot of this extra stuff. It's like, if you're this and you're super woke ideologies, and I'm like, no. Let's be clear. Like, there's a lot of loud people. There's a loud minority that leads to everyone feeling that's how everybody feels. I don't agree with Trump and how he's doing his stuff, but some of the stuff that they're pointing on, I can understand why that's a thing that they're doing, and that might be controversial, but it's the truth. I can understand why, because people are feeling like, well, all of these people are getting advantages. Now, as the people who are supposed to get the advantages, we know that that's not us. We're not getting what
they're in place for a reason.
They're not getting what they're supposed to be getting.
That's the whole why it happened.
But even the fact that it's in place and we're not getting it is a whole nother conversation. But
make sense.
That's the thing. But I do think that there's a space where we should at least be able to have the conversations, and that's the scary part for me, because we can't have these conversations.
Can't have the conversation.
And honestly, it's like even us having this conversation, I have to do like
we're done.
Like mental gymnastics to not say something, because I also don't want to be the type of person that I hate on the internet that just says things just to trend on, and I don't want to be that.
Right. But I'm like, how are you going to have the conversation? Because I mean, anything can be a learning experience too, right?
Everything should be a learning experience.
Like if there's certain levels of whatever we're saying, comment below, right? That you want to like, hey, I'm concerned about this, or let's address this, because at least me personally, I'm not gonna be right about everything. No. I don't think I'm right about everything. No. I don't know everything.
No.
But I do have personal experiences that I feel that I want to express.
Yeah, 100%. So. But that kind of leads us into we have a couple more things, but like, what is masculinity in this day and age? Because if it's not toxic, I don't know. I don't like.
Let me ask you this: if this is toxic. Sorry, I just went out yesterday, so I have a lot of stuff.
We gotta get him out the house more.
I know, right? Hey, one of my things that I do, if we're going to an event, right, and that event is like one of those crowded live music type of things, in my mind, and at this point, it's just what I do. I don't care what group I'm with. In my mind, I try to create a barrier, because people are going to be walking past you, stepping on you, bumping into you. So especially if I have a young lady with me, I try to get her bumped the least amount. And I don't know if you noticed I was doing that, but I try to, because like, if you bump me, and this might be toxic, right? If you bump me, it's whatever. But you're not gonna be running into the girl that I like. Like, you're not, you know what I'm saying? But you have to also, I think the part of masculinity is doing it humbly. Like, yeah, you're in a live, people are gonna bump into each other, right? So you can't be like, oh, I'm the big tough guy, get out my way, Hulk smash, right? But you do have to have a level of like, if y'all not watching this, I'm holding my arm up like a barrier, like a guardrail, and I'm like, hey, that's kind of how I move within the within an environment like that. Is that, and I look at it as being a man, but I mean, women can do it too, I guess. But like me, if I have women with me, I'm going to be like, if we're going through a crowd, I'm in the front usually trying to lead through the crowd because it's hard to get through a crowd.
Well, you know what's funny? And it's, once again, I think part of the problem is because we've this or that thing. It's like using the going through the crowd thing. Last night when we were leaving, Darlene. I was gonna say she's been on the thing. Yeah, she was in the front and she moved, but that's
I saw in my mind, I'm like, she was moving though. She was already gone. Yeah. But in my mind, I wanted to get in front.
But think about it. The thing about it for me is like, I know when I see her in that mode, I know exactly where because she's ready to go. And so I don't need to be in front because she's ready. But the thing is, I know my partner. So I know exactly when she does something, where she's at. And then also if I'm in a place where if something's going on and I'm behind her, I can see.
Yes.
And so
sometimes you do. And I don't know if everyone thinks like this, right? I've been taught to think like this from another man, right? So that's why I call it being a man, right? But I think about, hey, there might be times where you need to be in the back depending on where you're going.
Yeah.
Right? Or, hey, I need to be in a position, what if she falls?
Yeah.
Because she got heels on. Like, as a man, I think of these things. Now, you could say, oh, well, women think about that too. I don't know what y'all women. But you also, tell me. But I know what I'm thinking about as a man.
But at the core of it, it's like it doesn't mean. That's the thing that we need to challenge this every time it comes up. Just because that is your viewpoint doesn't mean that it automatically means women can't do that.
Exactly.
It just means like, hey, this is what I want to focus on. It's like when we go into any situation. I may be thinking about the fact that, you know, the way, like using this camera setup, the way this camera is, you know, higher than this one means that it's going to be different. You may not be thinking about that. You might be thinking about the color, but as a group, we're getting freaking amazing quality. And the thing about it is, you should never be a space where you are the only person ever thinking about everything, because it's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
So if you're in a group of people you trust, certain people are going back to the roles, and I know roles is a dirty word. The gender roles is a dirty word now, but truthfully, there's certain things that you are going to fall into. It's like, yes, can my wife open things or reach tall things? I'm sure she can, but if she can't and she asked me for help, does it mean that I'm more of a man because of it? No, she asked for help and I want to help her.
The only time that works or is official is the jar. When I crack that jar open and my lady friend can't crack it open, I'm definitely the man.
I mean, but then again, does
like I know it's very old school stereotype.
The question is when she opens it,
I loosened it up for you.
Oh, okay.
I'm still the man in my mind because I loosened it up for you.
But at the core, like that's
the only time. Any other time, she can do whatever she wants, and you know I don't really need to feel like the man. Yeah. But when the jar happens, and I'm like, and I'll be waiting too. I'll be over here like, she ain't getting it. Let me get that real quick. And 9 times out of 10, I crack that bad boy open.
But the thing about it is that is such a simple thing. But it's something that's probably going to enrage somebody. It's like, oh, look at him. Thinking a woman can't open the door.
It's a jar. Calm down.
No, but that's what we've just gotten.
It's a jar. I'm just joking around.
We have literally gotten to the point right now where our existence is polarized. So by the fact that you did something, you automatically, and I'm like, I just wanted to help out.
I'm just helping out. Like, jars can be tough. I even got a little trick, knocking on the side of the counter a little bit. Listen, come on, man. I'm not new to this.
I don't know. I
don't know if I can put it on a resume, but I feel very proud of my jar opening skills. That's all.
Do you feel like masculinity is dead?
No.
Or just evolving?
Nah, I think it's evolving. I think even with him even having this conversation is not dead, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to say he's a young father, right? I don't think he's like super old. But you about to check?
I was say how old? I feel like he's around our age, or maybe slightly older.
Check it out real quick. But I think it is changing.
He's 46.
46. He's 46.
Yeah, you look good for 46, though.
Good 46. I think it is changing, even with the state of the world and how like you do have to make sure you move not in a toxic way. But I also believe that, especially our age group, because we were born when technology wasn't as great as it is now, that we can kind of we're in the middle, right?
Yeah.
We have the old school teachings, but we're young enough to understand the new school teachings as well, right? Yeah. So I don't think it's dying. I think it's just that we're adapting to the environment, and people like Mackie still wants to teach his version of masculinity in a positive way.
Yeah.
And I can't be mad at that.
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, going into our unpopular opinion section, he actually had another part where he was talking about his nephew talking to women. And this is an interesting side part. I didn't
hear this part. Okay.
Oh, God, let's see.
American male masculinity is something I think is very important for boys. Because now our little boys are afraid to fail, so they don't try. You know what I mean? When we were kids, we did tackle drills. We would run face first into each other.
We just talked about it. Dudes don't even talk to a woman face to face no more.
They don't know how no more. Because, women they are so mean and so angry. Bruh, I saw this, my nephew was talking to this girl. Oh my God, dude, she just killed him. I mean, he was like, excuse me, how you doing? She goes, ugh. How do you come back from that? He just walked over to me. I gave him his beer. I was like, there you go, bro. That didn't happen. Let's start over.
So, that one is it's funny because you hear now there's a growing trend of like what they said, like men are not talking to women and they're not approaching.
Yeah.
And I could understand why.
Is being a man the person who approaches? Or all genders can do this?
I mean, all genders can do that. I just think that there's also, as much as this story has been built up in society, there's still a space where certain women will never initiate. So you'd watch Mr. Charming, Prince whatever his name is, and
walk right on by you,
and you wouldn't say anything, but because you expect the man to do it. But then now the man is like, well, I'm not gonna reach out there because I don't want to be considered thirsty or to be hit with an ew.
Being hit with an ew. But the way he
not
said
even
it,
no thank you. It was like no,
ew. No thank you goes a long way. I really appreciate the no thank you because now we're not
considerate
and we're not wasting each other's time.
Also, I mean, I understand why women also have gotten very hard with that because you see dudes, and I think it's the corniest thing ever. That's why you ugly. I'm like, first of all, you're an idiot. You're a friggin' idiot because you are gonna holler at this person, and because of rejection, now you I reckon like a little.
One of my homegirls and she's a very respectable lady. Man, she told me a story. She was walking somewhere in the area, DC, and somebody tried to holler at her, and she was like, "No, I'm good." And they started throwing rocks at her.
What?
I said, hold on, what? Yeah. She's like, yeah, they was throwing rocks at me. I'm like,
rocks though? What are you, bro?
I'm like, why was that the reaction? So let's not get it confused. I understand the level of threat level, right?
Oh, 100%.
Right? Because this probably even goes back to the bear thing, right? There's a threat level, right?
100%.
But you can't put everybody in the threat level.
No.
Because, everybody, like we go back to this and that. Every guy is not like this, right?
And a lot of guys have been put in categories to do things that make women feel uncomfortable. And I understand that completely. And I think we need to hold those people accountable and call them out and let them know. Because one of the things that wasn't happening is a correction of that behavior. And now I feel like the correction has gone to the point where just by being a man, you're a problem. Just by
you're a red flag.
Just by being a
straight
man,
you're
being a straight man, you're a problem. And I'm like, that's interesting. So that does that automatically mean that, like, I don't know. Does that mean that gay men are not, or bisexual
or women
men
are not problems? Like, my philosophy, any human being can be a problem.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. Like, if we're talking about being inclusive and equality, any gender can be an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't fall into that, right? So I'm like, I don't fall into that belief of, oh, okay, because you are this thing, or because of my past. I know that I could, like, with my past experiences with women, I could be a guy like who's like, oh, just forget all women, right? Mm-hmm. That doesn't make sense to me because I know there's so many women out here. All of them are not the same.
Yeah, 100%.
If that was that, I would have to do that with my homeboys too. There's some homeboys I've had falling out with. What I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna have homeboys no more. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't. My brain doesn't work that way.
I want people to look at the world and where we're at and ask the question: is this actually helping us, or is this just feeding the social media algorithm? Because that's really, honestly, part of the problem that we have is that we're being shown what some algorithm thinks we want to see. And so as a result, it shows us things that we want. I know it's the irony of talking about it is like this stuff is going to end up in the same algorithm, right? But the thing of it shows us what it thinks we want to see. So if we're a pro masculinity thing, then they're going to show you more stuff that match that. If you're, toxic masculinity person, it's going to show you stuff. It's actually quite the opposite. If you are against anything than masculinity, it will show you things that are super toxic because it's going to get a reaction out of you. And that's we're fighting a whole different thing that people don't even realize.
Well, just to sum up that part about, because I've been reading up on it too, and it is like a major concern actually that men are no longer approaching women, and then not only are they no longer approaching them, but they're like staying away from them. And so now you're creating a situation where, women are not happy because the men are not talking to them. Men are not happy because they're lonely or they're depressed or they think they're like not worthy and stuff like that. So now you got two groups just sitting there stanking, like just not happy with things. And then you might get, like, for a woman, she might get the guy, like, he approached, but that's because he's a certain type of guy that might not be ideal, or he might be a player or whatever it is, you don't know. And I'm like, we're creating this divide, and the only way we're going to get better is to have the conversations of like, hey, I guess my only thing though, when people ask men why they think like this or why they feel this way, could we try to listen to them instead of telling them, hey, you're wrong? That's not what it is.
People don't listen to people anymore.
Well,
they just have to. If you have an opinion that doesn't match mine,
it's a wrap for you. You're done. Hey, go back to making hamburgers and fries. I'm like, why is that the go-to?
Yeah, where do we go with that?
Why is that the go-to when you don't like my opinion?
Yeah, the funny thing, and I was just thinking about it too as a closing thought. What if this was a plan by some, I don't know, foreign agent, right? Like, let's say Russia, to destabilize the growth rates in America, right? Because if men and women are not dating each other and talking to each other and other stuff like that, the rate of kids being made is going to go down.
Yep.
What if this was all this is? Because truthfully, where did this come from? Like, where
the men versus women thing?
Yeah, like, I don't understand why I'm fighting. I'm not fighting. Literally, and I know that this is years and years of unjust things happening, and I get it, and I'm not devaluing that whatsoever. But at the same time, like, where are we going?
Yeah, that's see, when you said the but, a lot of people would get mad. There is no but, and I'm like, so then you're just in a void. You're just in a, like, you're just in limbo somewhere because you have to get like you said, where are we going? You have to get somewhere though. You can't just be like, okay, well that's what it is. I'm just gonna sit here and stank in that. No, you have to figure it out. You have to make these conversations. You got to have these conversations. You got to. Yeah. I pray for the young men coming up because they're getting less and less social. They're getting less and less. Like that dog ain't there no more. You know, in some guys, right? And it's actually studies showing that it's getting worse.
Of course it is.
Especially like guys in their 20s right now.
Of course it is.
And I'm like, so if it continues that trend, what's going to happen the next round of 20-something young adults, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So,
yeah, man,
it is concerning.
It's definitely one of those things. But in conclusion, I still stand by the fact that I don't see what he said was wrong here, and Anthony Mackie.
Right, back to the point, right?
I think that if you have your kids and you're raising your kids, it's your responsibility until you're adults to bring them up in a way that matches your values.
To the best that you can.
And to the best that you can. It doesn't mean you're going to be right all the time. Matter of fact, if you show me a human that said they're right all the time, I'll show you someone who's delusional as hell. Mm-hmm. So I agree what he says, and that man is my Captain America. We have to end it on that note.
I like that.
We have to end it on that note. So if you made it this far, we appreciate the hell out of you. This was a longer one than I expected, but it was full of feels. So sure. We appreciate you. Live your life, man. You know, like try to not the world's limiting beliefs. Try to keep them out of your sphere, and know that there's gonna come a time when we're all not here anymore. And when that time comes, you want to say you live life to the fullest.
Yeah, so, for sure.
On that note, it's been Juxtaposed.
Peace.